Hey, buonasera, benvenuti. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for the Russo Brothers Italian American Film Forum Virtual Film Festival, presented by the National Italian American Foundation in conjunction with the Italian Sons and Daughters of America, the Russo Brothers, and AGBO. NIAF is a membership-based, nonpartisan, nonprofit organization. Founded in 1975, NIAF's mission is to preserve the Italian American heritage and culture, promote and inspire a positive image and legacy of Italian Americans, and strengthen and empower ties between the United States and Italy. Created in 2016 by acclaimed directors and the co-founders and executive chairman of AGBO, Anthony and Joe Russo, together with NIAF and ISDA, created the Russo Brothers Italian American Film Forum, which provides an incredible opportunity for inspired and creative artists like Jeffrey and Nick to craft films that explore the Italian American experience. Each year, a select number of applicants are awarded an $8,000 grant that serves as a production budget for the story they'd like to develop and create for the screen. Of those applicants, only 3 are invited to screen their films during the NIAF Gala weekend in Washington, and a final winner is chosen and presented an award during the gala dinner. At this year's gala on October 23rd, the 2020 and 2021 winners were announced, and we're pleased to present for our final night of the virtual film festival, one of the 2021 finalists, Big City, Little Italy by Jeffrey and Nick Santoro. I hope you all had a chance to watch their fun documentary prior to this session. So we're going to have a nice chat with Jeffrey and Nick, or Jeff and Nick, tonight. So please go ahead and use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screens. So as you can imagine, Jeff and Nick are brothers, and they made a little documentary film about recapturing their Italian traditions past. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to welcome Jeffrey and Nick Santoro.
Hello. Hi.
All right, so I loved the documentary, guys, and it was so heartwarming to see you go through all of these little Italies and meet these wonderful people. Tell me, what made you write this? What made you film this? I know in the film or in the documentary you say this is, for our parents, but why now? And how did you just even get the idea to do this?
Well, it all starts with Anthony and Joe Russo. I mean, honestly, it was NIAF's release. We saw it on Facebook, and we the contest to do the pitch, and so we were thinking, what could we pitch? And Big City, Little Italy came up, and because it is a true story about not only myself and Nikki, but our brother Anthony, our sister Dina. All of us, we lost our parents a while ago. We've lost our grandparents. And so with each generation, traditions have kind of, gone away, those Italian traditions. Yeah. And so we thought, well, let's, and no disrespect to our own city of Wilmington, but our Little Italy that we remember is completely different now. It's a very different experience. It's lovely, but it's just not the experience that we remember as kids growing up. So we thought, let's go to Little Italy's all over the United States and try to reconnect with our traditions past. And so that was the pitch. Yeah. And we went for it. And luckily enough, we stood out.
That was a good idea.
Yeah.
So did you have to do like a ton of prep work before, or was it just kind of like, okay, we're going to go to this city, this city, and whoever we meet, we'll meet?
No, there was a ton of prep work for this. I mean, once you get the notification that you get a grant to create the film, we went into a very, very quick mode of, okay, well, we have to pick our cities. We kind of pitched our cities. They changed a little bit. And then we had to figure out, okay, now it's real. We have to.
Who do we know?
Who do we know?
And then thank goodness to our executive producer Cyril Papati,
yeah,
who came in, and he had a lot of connections actually through NIAF.
Yeah.
And so he put us in contact with some people, and it started the ball rolling. Mm-hmm. But the real fun thing was when we got there, like all of a sudden the little surprises, like, you know, the fisherman in San Diego that's lived there forever, and all of a sudden he wants to be interviewed. So it was like awesome. So there was a good mix. We had a schedule that we worked for what, a month before we started going.
Before each city, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we prepped it to have rough skeleton outlines of what we needed to do, who we were going to see,
Who we were going to talk to, yeah.
and then it kind of grew from there when we got there. So.
And we did a ton of interviews. There's a ton of interviews that didn't make the cut. There's a ton of there's a couple cities that didn't make the cut yet. But it's, you know, we're still in the, you know, we're still in the editing phase. What everybody has seen is really a preview of what's to come. This was our second cut. We're hoping to get the final cut over the next few months, but you
like
know,
Scorsese, we'll make it 3.5 to 4 hours and really blow your mind.
Well, I mean, if it's you two doing it, we could sit there and watch, I'm sure, because you guys are such an entertaining duo. You really, both of your personalities work well off of each other. So it was really fun to watch. In fact, I was like, wait, it's over? Like, hold on.
But Gabrielle, you need to know the original story, we weren't in it.
Yeah, we weren't
supposed to be in it at all. And we started shooting, and then we were like,
and then Ciro again was on, you know, on set with us. He's like, hey, I want you guys to do this. Why don't you paint the mural? I'm like, okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah. By the way, that was my brother imitating Ciro's voice.
Yeah,
that was
which
pretty
is
good.
terrible.
That was good. That was pretty good. Yeah, that was pretty good.
Ciro, what do you think?
But seriously, so we were not supposed to be in this thing at all. It was truly going to be a traditional documentary, talk about, you know, the history of each of the little Italys and build from there the people. But then we stuck ourselves in, so it kind of became a commedia
dell'arte?
Commedia dell'arte. I don't know. It just turned into a fun moment for us to kind of have some experiences.
With it.
So speaking of shooting, I couldn't help but notice the iPhone. Did you guys shoot that whole documentary on an iPhone?
Yeah, my personal iPhone.
That's it.
Yeah, we had two of them. Nick has his right there. Max so Pro. We have 2 iPhone 12 Max Pros, and we actually did the majority of the shooting. Our cousin Dave helped with audio, and then we would do audio. I mean, it was just, I mean, because there's images of Nick wearing headphones and carrying a boom.
Right.
Our cousin, you know, it really was a family affair to produce this thing. So
I love it.
But yeah, iPhone. I mean, real credit to the iPhone, because it does present a beautiful picture.
Shout out to Eric Sisypho as well.
Thank you, Eric. Yeah, cousin Eric really helped out too.
Well, I mean, you guys should submit it to Apple and tell them, like, look at what we did on an iPhone. Maybe you could be in their next commercial. I always like, you know, they always show in the commercials, they're like, oh, look, you could do this with an iPhone. I'm like, yeah, right. You can't do like an actual movie with an iPhone, but you.
Well, now that the 13's out, and you know, they're like, oh, the 12 is, you know,
obsolete.
Yeah, you've been there, done that.
That's so funny. So you mentioned earlier about like little surprises that came up. I have to ask, in Cleveland, did you know that person, Denny, right, was his name?
Yeah, Dennis, yeah.
Dennis. Was that a setup? Because how is that possible that your father played?
It was fascinating.
So coincidental and so amazing.
He was playing music, and we were walking down the street. We hear the accordion, and we
walk down the side alley to his backyard.
Yeah, and so that was a great thing and great opportunity. But then the real revelation was, you know, our big festival each year is the St. Anthony's Padua Italian Festival. And, you know, at the same time, our father is a musician, or was a musician. You know, Denny's like talking to us, and he's like, oh yeah, I played at the St. Anthony's Festival in Wilmington, Delaware too.
Which he said was one of the greatest, you know, festivals that he had played at, because he toured in the 80s, you know, to these places. And so
he basically was playing at the same time that our father was. And I mean,
and he gave us the footage, and we're like, this is unbelievable.
I mean, our eyeballs, when he said that, we were looked at each other going, I mean, I like Denny says, I gotta, you know, get a little emotional, because, you know, our dad's been gone for a while, and yeah, that was pretty neat. That was pretty
That's
neat.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Great. Well, let's see. I'm going to take some questions from the, those were all my questions, by the way. I'm going to take some questions from the audience. So an anonymous attendee is asking, what was your favorite part of the production process?
Our dinners? No.
I mean, let me just say, we ate more cannolis, more tiramisu, more Italian specialty cakes and desserts and food,
so
and
many delicious flavors,
and the generosity of the restaurants and the bakeries and the bread company. I mean, it was overwhelming. I think that might be one of the favorite things was the food.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly good food.
Yeah.
That was great, and of course, working with each other. Believe me, we never fought once.
No. Okay. I was like, nah.
That's a different.
No, it would. We're gonna do the behind the scenes next time.
Yeah.
I think working with my brother was probably one of the that was a neat experience.
This is the first time we worked so deeply on something actually projects, because he has his own projects he does. I have mine.
Sure.
So.
And so, like, how long were you guys actually on the road for?
We went for a solid 6 weeks, every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We're about end of May through August, because we finished up our last city in August.
Right.
In San Francisco. Yeah. So it was a lot of flying around the country. Rental cars, hotels.
We were also very lucky because things were opening up, and all of a sudden, right in June, city events started coming back, and people started gathering again, and it was like, oh, good. So at least we'll have specific things we can target in on. And
everybody wasn't wearing a mask, clearly. I mean, you see the mask, at times, but at least to Nick's point, it was opening up, which is great for us because we weren't sure what to expect when we got to the cities. We knew we had interviews planned, and we knew those interviews would be one-on-one and a comfort level. But then to have the street atmospheres set up was great. So
yeah, it looked really great. In fact, an anonymous attendee asked, how did you actually choose the locations? How did you narrow it down to those ones?
Yeah, well, we know there's definitely, I personally have been to pretty much every Little Italy in the United States. I mean, because I travel for my job.
Part of the idea.
Yeah, because I do travel for a living, and so but we missed out on a ton. I mean, St. Louis is a great one. New Orleans. I mean, there's so many great ones. Baltimore.
Which is why we want to continue.
Yeah, we want to keep going. But we settled in. We wanted to cover a little bit of East, a little bit of West, and they had to be big cities, or highly populated cities. So we picked, New York, of course, Philadelphia, because it's in our backyard, our own little city of Wilmington, we cover a little bit, and then San Diego, San Francisco, because we want the West Coast to be represented.
Providence.
We went to Providence. Originally, it was going to be Boston, but then we went to Cleveland, and then we figured Providence was a better balance for a smaller city, because it's not. You don't think Cleveland is a big city,
where Wilmington starts, going from Wilmington to Philly, because Philly and Wilmington are 20 minutes away from each other. So we had the same experience in Wilmington as Philadelphia.
Yeah.
We'd be up in Philadelphia as much as we were in Wilmington, growing up. But then getting smaller, to bigger cities and with the New York thing, we were going to do Mulberry Street, but then we were like, let's take a look at these other areas. And when we went up to the Bronx, we were like, oh, this is it. This is a great spot.
Arthur Avenue is a brilliant place to visit for if somebody wants a truly immersive experience in a Little Italy in New York. I mean, don't get me wrong. We did the San Gennaro Festival a few weeks ago in New York at Mulberry, and it was fantastic.
Started coming back nice.
It's really coming back, and I was really excited for
that
area for Midtown to be able to come back, or Lower Manhattan to come back a little bit. And then of course you got Brooklyn has their own. I mean, so there's a lot of Little Italies in New York, but we settled on the Bronx, and we couldn't have been happier.
The people are amazing.
Peter Madonia from Madonia's Bakery, over 100-year-old bakery. He really helped us, set up so much of the, of the interviews. And Bobby Ciprietti, who another weird connection, and this is one of those. aha moments.
Big surprise
But
moments,
Bobby
too.
Ciprietti owns a chain of restaurants in Delaware and Maryland, and they're called Touch of Italy. And I'd been going there. My brother's been going. My brother Anthony eats there. My sister, it's one of my sister Dina's favorite restaurants in Rehoboth. And we've been eating this restaurant forever. Well, we're in the Bronx, and we find out that Bobby Ciprietti, Delaware Bobby, grew up in the Bronx.
Oh,
And
okay.
he buys all of his product. You know, he gets the raviolis, he gets the sauce, and he brings it down to Delaware, and he serves it in his restaurant. So
It's like 10 or 11 different businesses that, like, you know, I mean, so it's amazing how they bring it, you know, they keep bringing it back to their home, you know, and like he's kind of like exporting that flavor of the Bronx.
And so he's brought the Bronx to Delaware, and he keeps loyal to his traditions. I mean, so you gotta love that. And that was another one of those discoveries along the way.
Right.
So.
Well, I'm sure like his story is a story in itself. I mean,
we could. He's a great guy and great character, and we spent all day with him, obviously, but for the one shoot, but we could have you could do a whole documentary on Bobby Ciprietti.
I bet. A lot of characters.
Yeah.
So another anonymous attendee is asking, what was the most difficult part of the production process?
Financing. I mean, and again, no disrespect to the Russo brothers and NIAF and everybody, $8,000 to make a movie, forget about it.
That was the hardest part. Feature, right? Yeah.
I mean, because if you're flying all over the country, you're in hotels, and then your rental cars, and you're 5 days or 4 days in cities, it does get expensive.
Let's just say we had some credit cards that are full.
Yeah, we've got a few credit cards that are totally maxed out at this point.
Okay, that might have been the toughest situation. I think the toughest situation for us was we had shot in 4K, and that information is a lot of information to upload. So in the editing process, it became really difficult. There was a slower process to be able to get the information to cut the film. So that was really frustrating.
4K meaning a really high, ultra high definition, you know, because these cameras, these phones can shoot in these high definition.
Takes up so much information
and
that
space.
You need a lot of
But not where I mean, obviously this is never going to show in an IMAX, but if it was, we're ready.
That's awesome. This is perfect.
By the way, why are all the questions anonymous? I mean,
I don't know, but we have now Sandy Thaxton is asking, did you have a favorite city or Little Italy?
Oh, that's a tough one because
it's so dangerous too.
Well, I can answer that. And by the way, hello, Sandy. Sandy's our cousin. So no, that's very, very nice of her to ask the question. I would say for me, each Little Italy and each city that we visited was just a breath of fresh air, because thinking about the communities that come together to preserve the traditions, the heritage, the food, the people, the history.
The people that come there, the mix of people that come to each Little Italy, it's amazing, you know? It's every culture, it's every background coming there to experience it. And that's what's kind of the magic. And each little one is like, you know, Cleveland with its arts and
that was amazing.
And even the food just everywhere was delicious. But you know, I like being by the water. So San Diego, there was something about it because it is a little more modern, but it's holding on to the real sensibility of the past with it. And so, you know, it's got a real crazy balance.
Yeah, they figured out a way. You know, they have this model, San Diego does, to really make sure that there's a blend of tradition and then what's new in order to stay alive, for lack of a better word.
North Beach and San Francisco
does a great job.
And they've got, you know, the Italian Athletic Club, which is like the history there is just so, you know, it's beautiful.
I don't think we could pick. I don't think we could pick a favorite city. What my concern is, and I mean this for every one of the cities that we shot at, and all the Little Italys that we shot at, the concern is if the community, and it doesn't mean you have to be Italian American, I'm talking about just the community in general. If the community does not support and invest into those communities, they're going to disappear. And that is something that we definitely saw in some of the cities, and that's a concern. So I got to wonder, in 10 years, if we were to go back to the same cities, how different would they be?
But it is a celebration. It is a celebration of all things Italian American, which is a beautiful thing that they still all have. So that's really.
Would you be open to share which ones do you think that maybe they don't have the support of the surrounding?
Well, we're definitely not. We're definitely. I don't want to profess this to be. I mean, we kind of called out our own city. We took that. We said, you know what, Wilmington, and we would love to see our Italian community. Here's a problem with Wilmington, and I'll just come out there in a national platform and tell you what our problem is. Our problem with us is and this is a problem with maybe Italian Americans in general. We all are doing our own thing and not working together. We need to tear down the wall and work together, because right in the city of Wilmington, we have multiple Italian community organizations, but they're kind of doing their own thing. But if they all came together and they collectively said, you know what, let's focus on these 3 goals, and we're going to achieve these 3 goals, whatever, public space for Italian, putting up more piazzas, or getting lobbying our own government officials to be able to provide funding, creating a nonprofit to fund back, give back to
landmarking as well.
Historical landmark, whatever it might be. But that's probably the biggest problem with our own city. Everybody's kind of doing their own parallel path, as opposed to saying, you know what, we need to work together, because our little is very, very different than it was for our parents and grandparents, and even us as kids.
Well, naturally, cities in general, it's just some areas you want to feel safe walking in, and it's just you don't feel safe anymore. So it's unfortunate.
And then the safety thing is, by the way, is probably the #1 concern. If you want people to come to your part of the city, the 2 things you can do, #1 is clean it up, keep it clean, and keep it safe.
And that's why San Diego is doing it right in that respect, because San Diego
same with the Bronx.
The
Bronx has the Bronx, San Diego, just those 2 in particular. But they because they charge the little fee to the businesses and stuff, they put the money back in by keeping the city clean, by
buying their own personal security for
and stuff. So I
and
think I felt very safe in all the cities, but you certainly see the visual in those 2 in particular that
the centuries old problem, unifying Italians.
And it's not, that's what, Gabrielle, it's nothing new, right? But we must change in order to survive. We're going to have to change, work together in order to survive. So if we can all find that common ground to work together, then our city, Wilmington, maybe in 10 years, may be a very different Little Italy that you can come and visit and thrive and be thriving again. So that's my hope.
Yeah, well, I hope so too. Our next question comes from Kip Lubner. Hi, Kip. Thank you for joining us. He's joined us for several evenings now.
Oh, that's so nice. That's so nice.
As great film. Thank you. So, with such a challenging endeavor, both physical and emotional, did you find it a strength or possibly a weakness being brothers/family on a production such as this?
No, I think it actually helped us. We have like you said, we just bounce off each other, and we had the same sort of.
I think it was definitely a strength. I mean, I wouldn't say it was a. It was definitely a strength. Yeah, we definitely have to learn. I mean, because Nikki, we're both adults, so he lives in LA, I live in Delaware, so our lives are very different. So coming together for 6 weeks, 7 weeks, and then 6 weeks of editing together every day.
Which is exhausting.
It is exhausting.
Even just being 6 weeks of going.
I've seen my brother way too much.
Yeah.
That's great.
No, but I think it worked out for the positive.
Awesome. I'm happy to hear that. We have just a comment from Joyce. She says, smelts, bracciole, dandelion greens. Grazie mille for returning me to my childhood.
Oh, our pleasure. I have to tell you, when we met, and again, that was another discovery in Cleveland. Robert Fatica, he used to own this amazing restaurant. He retired and kind of closed his shop after many years in Cleveland. And you probably know, I don't know if you know.
Vino.
Yeah, yes, it was. I hear it was a fantastic restaurant. Well, he was having a neighborhood party, and so we went over there because of Pamela. Pamela brought us over there, and he had a dandelion salad. And you know, my brother Anthony, my sister Dean, and Nikki, me, our cousins from across the street, we would literally get brown paper bags, go up the hill, and
with our pet fathers,
cut the dandelion. But no disrespect to Dad or Uncle Ferdy, Robert's dandelion salad was awesome.
Well, for him to bring it before it was become so fashionable, everyone now doing dandelion, but back in the day, you know, that was a thing that you looked for the food that was around you. You foraged, and
I guess that's weird.
And it was literally on the side of the street, or on the side of in the garden in the back.
Our uncle Ernie Camarano used to make dandelion wine too. Now we didn't drink that as kids, but he used to make dandelion wine, and so that so that was neat. And then the brajol, that was fun to make for Nick to make the brajol. I mean, all the things that was making the bread. I mean, it really was us reconnecting with our childhood. So I'm glad that some of the things that we did, you could connect with as well. For sure.
Absolutely. Alan Krishner says, you mentioned that not all the cities that you visited made the second cut. How many cities in all did you visit?
So we have 2 more cities to include. We have Philadelphia. So we only did a small piece in the second cut with Vince Papale. So those who know football legend Vince Papale, Vince was generous enough because of Zero to come in and do a quick interview and do a rocky run down 9th Street with us. So we have Philadelphia, and then we have Chicago. So Ron and Esty, if he's out there, we'll be coming to Chicago soon to finish up what we started. So
great.
So those are the other 2 cities right now, and then that'll be a complete, pretty full film at that point.
But we are getting emails. We got Boston wants us to come up there now.
We got a bunch now,
so that's nice, at least.
So we got to fund. We got to pay off the credit card debt.
Yeah.
We can't. Yeah, forget about
charging
it.
a fee.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. The Santoro brothers are coming to a city near you.
Yeah.
That's right.
Great. So Juliana Di Giustini asked, might the interviews and the images that don't make it in the film be published in a book, perhaps?
Nick is the artist in the family, along with Tina.
That's not true. Jeffrey is an artist too. Jeffrey's the greatest.
I mean, a book. That's an interesting idea. Never thought about it.
We'll get on it. We'll start doing.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
By the way, we probably have about 25 to 30 hours of footage, which, if you have to think about sorting through all of those interviews, all of the B-roll,
and then finding the story,
and finding the story,
that through line.
It's not an easy feat, and we're lucky that we got some story, and we can't wait till you see the finished product in spring of 2022.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm looking forward to that. So Ferdinand Di Furio asks, how did you handle Italian stereotypes, and were you careful to avoid them?
No, clearly I use my hands all the time, so I don't know if that's a stereotype.
Right.
We didn't, I don't know that we avoided Italian stereotypes at all. It's a great question. I don't think we were looking for that. We were doing what's called ENG. So it's called, back in the day, it's called electronic news gathering. So we're literally landing in the city, and then we have 5 interviews scheduled so we're running and gunning and shooting. So we weren't, and there's only 3 or 4 of us. It was,
these aren't written characters.
These
are real people, right?
Yeah.
So we don't fall into those traps as writers, or
Yeah, we didn't want to censor them, and if they, and as you can see, some of them really do portray a stereotype, and that's okay. And then some don't and are surprising, very surprising in their character.
It's just beautiful, the stories that we were able to find, too. And
I agree. Yeah. Very different and very heartwarming too.
But great
Um,
question. But something we should always keep in the back of our mind, especially because it is a very, the culture is much more sensitive than it was when our parents and grandparents were living.
Sure. Everyone's offended. Vincent another question from Vincent DiFurio. How has the experience of learning more learning more of your culture changed your perspective of Italian traditions going forward?
I mean, certainly talking with other Italian Americans from across the United States kind of, for me, solidified what our grandparents and parents taught us. So I don't know. I feel, it created this sense of relief that, we were brought up in a great environment. We were taught.
People across the nation had the same experiences that we had.
Yeah.
And that's nice. And those traditions, don't die, you still have those in your heart, always, even if, times have changed.
And then moving forward, I mean, we would do this, try to do the 7 fishes, and, we try to keep some tradition alive in our family. But I will say, Italian cookies, I think for me, we were in search of these specific Italian cookie that our mom and grandmother on our mom's side would make all the time, and we could never find it. We would ask every bakery. It's it looks like this. It's a bow tie.
Iwan.
We call him Iwan. The Italians call him something different, and so everybody was like, "Oh yeah," but it was Marian Esposito, who then grabs one of her many cookbooks, and she turns the page. She's like, "Here, it's this," and we were like, "Yes, that's it." So, Vincent, to answer your question, maybe this Christmas we as a family will come together and make that cookie using Marian Esposito's recipe.
I love it. And what does in Marianne's book, what is it called?
It's called it's Iwan, but it's spelled. I think it's pronounced differently. But we grew up as Iwan, so I don't.
Interesting. I wonder what.
No, that's a different cookie altogether. Yeah. So, but Gabrielle, we could send it out to everybody, and we'll ask Marianne if we could share her recipe. I'm sure she would love it. Get her books. But by the way, one of the greatest meals we've had on this, and no disrespect to any of the restaurants who provided us amazing food the entire trip, but Marian Esposito, going to her home and having her, we do an hour, do an hour interview, and then she's like, "Okay," and we're like packing up. She's like, "No, we're eating," and she started all this food that she made. It was amazing. So.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I want Marianne to cook for me. That's awesome.
The recipe is actually on her website, I think.
Oh, okay. It's on her website, so you can probably visit Marianne, but they don't know what the name of the cookie is, so we'll send it.
Okay, sounds good. So Victoria Martino asked, did you find that the Catholic Church played a role in establishing a strong sense of community in the various Little Italies? If so, where was it most apparent?
Yeah, I would say, well, definitely. And I would say in our own city of Wilmington, the Catholic Church, we have an unbelievable St. Anthony's of Padua Italian church. It was built by Italians, and that community was built because the Italians didn't know where else to go. But
all the cities,
all of them had an unbelievable.
Yeah,
it was the anchor.
It was the anchor around that, and I think that's the story of immigration to America, even today. You know what I mean? It's like you gather around the faith or the church, and that's where you find your friends and find the same things, and are able to share.
I mean, Providence has an amazing street. It's called Atwell Street, and from the one end of Atwell, they have La Pina, this archway with the pine cone, and then on the other side, which you didn't see because we didn't put it in the film, is the church. So it's like this anchor. Cleveland has it right in the center. San Diego has it in the center. San Francisco has this unbelievable cathedral where Joe DiMaggio and Marilyn Monroe got married, right in the center of Washington Square. So each location, the church, the Catholic Church, is central, and I believe to this day is pivotal for the success of each of these little Italy communities.
Yeah.
They have
Yeah,
to be.
absolutely. It really is.
You can't have I think a robust and engaging Little Italy if you don't have the community and you don't have the church behind it. And I love Father Joe in San Diego. You know, he's from the Philippines, but he says I'm Italian.
Aww.
And he says, because I speak Italian, I like Italian food, and I drink like an Italian. You know, I'm just like, he was one of my favorite interviews because he was, you know, there we are in his Catholic church right there in San Diego. And, you know, he's not Italian, but he is Italian.
Right.
Yeah.
And sharing in the history of you know, where this church came from, and you know, how it helped the communities to, you know, survive. I mean, what our parents gave us and our grandparents gave us is we're in such better position today as Italian Americans living, you know, in this country. And so
the
you know, you just have to take care of, you know, that past, and you know. So.
Exactly. And you know what, that's the whole point of this film forum, is that so we can document the culture, the heritage, these stories for the next generation, because maybe one of these little Italy's, like you said, in 10 years won't be there anymore. Well, now you have it on footage, you have the people, you have the stories, and that's a treasure in itself. So thank you.
And let's hope, Gabriella, from what you're saying, that these communities and other communities are going to say, you know what, let's stop the dam from breaking. I mean, the demise of these little Italys, because one thing I love, you know, and I'll use San Francisco as an example, they have an amazing Chinatown, best Chinese food in the world. You go to San Francisco's Chinatown, but right next to it, they've got this amazing Russian community. They have amazing Polish community. And I really like going to all these different communities, because you're going to get that authenticity from those areas. So that's why we have to we Italian Americans have to support,
and we all have our stories,
and
it's beautiful that, like, you know,
so I'm
pieces
hoping
of those are still there that we can all enjoy, you know?
So I think we need to figure out how we can make sure we preserve them, so that they're not just stories that our ancestors are telling, but they're stories because you're going in person and seeing them today because they're thriving, and that's the hope.
Absolutely. Well said. So Jennifer Sanchez is asking, how did you get Vince Papal to interview for the film? Great seeing him. Really enjoyed your film.
Our buddy, one of our executive producers, Ciro Papadi, reached out to Vince Papali and said, hey, we're doing this film. We'd love to interview you. Vince came in, he sat down, did the interview and right there on 9th Street. But what he didn't really know is that we were going to ask him, could we recreate the Rocky run down 9th Street? So that was another one of those.
He's like, I don't run, but okay.
You know,
I mean, it was so great.
And he's so in shape.
He's in great shape.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, my stomach, because at that point I already had like 6 gelatos that day, 6 cannolis. I don't know. It's like we're running, and I'm like, am I going to make it to the end of 9th Street? Vince Papali could keep going forever. Nick and I, forget about it. But no, it worked out. So that's how we got him. And we asked. Same with Marian Esposito. Ciro reached out to Marian, and she said yes.
We had asked other celebrities, and there was a fee that came with that, which actually became, you know, it was like, we sorry, we want you to do it out of the goodness of your heart. But I understand.
Yeah.
So I have a comment from a fellow 2021 Film Forum winner as well, Brandon Mather. Congratulations, gentlemen. Love the film. It was so entertaining and informative. You should be very proud. Excited to see the other cities, especially Chicago. What an achievement to have done this in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, you as well, Brandon.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Yeah,
I really loved your film, you guys.
But it was a fun film. But I have to tell you, you bring up a really valid point. The fact that the Film Forum puts out this, you know, call for, you know, pitches, And then you have to literally make a film in such a short amount of time. And oh, by the way, we're in the middle of a pandemic still.
Right.
So that it certainly proved its challenges along the way.
But
so.
it puts you in that same predicament that, you know, most films, you know, go through. It's like you're in pre-production, you know, boom, then you're in production, then you're posting it. And, you know, I love that deadline and that sort of feeling of like, you know, because it's invigorating.
Yeah, so we did 6, 6, and 6 in order to meet this deadline. We did 6 weeks of pre-production, 6 weeks of production, and 6 weeks of post-production. And we were very fortunate to be able to, you know, edit out in Los Angeles for 6 weeks. And so that was a blast.
Did have a lot of help from a lot of professionals.
And we're still doing it. So we got a lot more to go.
That's awesome. Well, being Italian, I'm surprised that production schedule, you didn't maybe do a 5-week, or because of 666. I don't know. I stay away from those numbers.
You know.
Could have been 777, but then we wouldn't have made the deadline.
We wouldn't have made the deadline.
Right, okay. That's funny. So Don Massara asks, did Italian Americans make a mistake by not establishing a history center in each community so that they can pass on the history of our community to their children? My opinion is that the festivals do not pass our rich history of our ancestors to future generations.
Yeah, so
I can answer this. Interesting you say that, because that's what's happening now. Each one of the cities, we know Cleveland's just opened up in August, right? We also know that Philadelphia has the museum of
Philadelphia.
Yeah. So it seems as though what you're saying is actually beginning to happen in these communities themselves. I mean, it's not like national, but
yeah, but the problem, again, I hate to be the negative guy looking at it from a business development and marketing standpoint, but that's what I do. And the reality is it requires support.
Right.
So it takes people, it takes money, moneta, right? It requires that support. And so the communities are not necessarily supporting that.
But some of them are.
Some are.
We did see that it is happening. And so I think that's the important thing, because it seems as though each person's history, where they grew up, plays a significant role in that. Like if you're a fisherman in New Orleans, you know, and your family came, you know, in the late 1800s and, you know, settled in New Orleans or, you know, out in San Francisco, you know, there's a history of its own, you know,
that should be documented,
you know,
and told.
And I think, I don't know if you can make that national, but individually, it seems to be,
you know what,
somewhat there.
I love the idea of a national, you know, and I think there's been talk of that through the years with NIAF and other Italian organizations. But once again, I will say, if all those Italian organizations came together, we might be able to actually produce something like that. But to your point, to your question, the individual communities, it's going to take leadership. It's going to take, I believe, some grant and some political support in order to get stuff like that to happen. But I see no reason why it can't happen. So let's all make it happen for our communities. Let's do it.
Yeah. In fact, this is the last comment question I'm gonna talk about. An anonymous attendee says, what advice and encouragement might you have for a city whose Little Italy has disappeared? I used to be involved with the effort to reestablish the Little Italy in Portland, Oregon back in 2005, but it fell apart for various reasons. It's very unfortunate to hear.
That is unfortunate, but you know what? It's never too late. We met a lovely lady by the name of Anne at the NIAF Gala recently, and she's working to revitalize Los Angeles's Little Italy, because that is no longer really around. So I think there's opportunity because there is an Italian-American community who have settled in Oregon and certainly in Portland and other areas. I mean, depending on where you want to do it, but it would be great as we go around, as we're trying to really start to reinvigorate, hopefully, people's thoughts. And as you see the video or the film and in different cities and how exciting it can be, maybe there's ways that we could even offer some help and some suggestions, because I would love to see every big city have a Little Italy.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful way to close it out. Yeah, let's do it for sure. So what do we expect next from the Santoro brothers? Is there, so you said spring 2022?
Yeah. So we're going to finish the final cut. By then, it's going to take us a little bit because we're doing some fundraising to get us through graphics. We've got some graphic work, and we have redesigned the film, so it's going to actually look quite different in 2022. So all of you who've seen it now will see it later and then say, hopefully, wow, much better. So that would be good. And then, you know, the festival route, of course, because that's always good to get some laurels if you win some festivals or get recognized for your efforts.
See, this is where we differ, because I think this is more TV episodic sort of series thing. And so, you know, I mean,
we don't disagree with that, because we actually designed it. So if you look at the film, it is designed with an episodic feel to it.
Yeah.
You know, we actually did, so we figured, you know, each city you could spend an hour and or 50 so minutes on, you know, some streaming service and watch, you know, all about Baltimore, North Beach, whatever it might be. So you know, we actually see this as a series. I couldn't agree more, but I'm also a believer in finishing the film. So that's where we disagree. My brother doesn't want to finish the film, folks.
I do.
I'm going to push him over, and my brother Anthony will step in.
Yeah, exactly. The great That's great. Well, guys, it was a pleasure chatting with you tonight about your wonderful documentary, Big City, Little Italy. And we wish you really all the best. And let's keep in touch. And for the audience members out there, this session was recorded, and look out for Big City, Little Italy in the spring of 2022.
Yeah, right.
Thank you, Gabrielle.
Thank you,
and we
everyone.
just, thank you for joining. And we just also want to say, of course, thank you to NIAF. And if you're Italian, thank you to NIAF. Thank you, of course, to Joe and Anthony Russo, because without them and AGBO, that's great. And last but not least, of course, the Italian Sons and Daughters of America. So thank you for the support. The $8,000 was used for half of a city. So we appreciate it tremendously.
And one last thing, all the other films from 2020 and 21,
it
was so great
it was
watching
so
you
awesome
guys
watching them.
and seeing all the different, like, you know, angles of Italian American experience. It was so good. I was so happy to watch all of them.
Yeah, keep this film forum going, because it really is bringing a different perspective and keeping that Italian culture and heritage alive. So
absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Grazie e buona serata. Ciao.
All right, take care. Bye.